Onorato and company together as we react to the NFL draft in the first round and the top 10 picks that both the Giants and the Jets had on a Thursday night. If you're watching us live, we'd love to get your thoughts on what you think
Yes,
Big
please.
Blue and Gang Green did. General thoughts on the top 10 or first round overall. Have at it. We'll share them here on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. And you can catch up with us on Saturday nights on My 4 as well. No trades in the top 10. Get that out of the way.
Yeah.
There was nothing that shocked us really, although what the Texans did at 3, and we'll get into that, but nothing that threw off the Jets and Giants selection process. We'll break it all down here for you on the News Channel 13 Facebook, Twitter, YouTube page. Hang on. You're watching Onorato and Company.
This is Onorato and Company. Brought to you by Alpen House.
All right, Ashton, we will go to Alpen House.
We will.
Later on in the show if you're watching us on My 4. But right now we're reacting to the top 10 in the NFL draft in the first round overall. The picks have been flying in
early on,
which is really kind of nice that that top 10 flew by. Teams knew what they wanted to do. The prognosticators were right. Trayvon Walker was going to be the guy at number 1. But let's talk about specifically here the Giants and the Jets before we backtrack to the top 10 overall. I think it worked out really well for both New York, New Jersey teams here that they were able to address serious positions of need and get incredibly quality players in those spots.
Yeah, it felt like nobody in either organization overthought it. They basically did what everyone thought they were going to do. They took the best available players that they liked at their position of need. And I think really the Jets and the Giants both got really good players at positions of need. You couldn't have asked for better for either team, I don't think.
Yeah, Sauce Gardner, 4th overall to the Jets. And then the Giants were like, well, every single O tackle is still on the board. So let's go get the D end and the pass rusher and Kayvon Thibodeau from Oregon. That to me felt like a smart move. Do that. Okay. And then, coming around 7, you're still going to get either Ekwonu, Neal, or Cross. The Panthers said, we don't have our quarterback of the future, but let's get an O tackle to protect whoever the next guy is. They go Ekwonu, and then Neal goes to the Giants, who our guy Pat Leonard said, if the Giants could pick any of the tackles, Neal would be their number 1 guy. And so there he was at 7 waiting.
I was going to say, we don't know if he was right because Ekwonu wasn't available for them, but we had also the stuff that I had read said that they really love Charles Cross, but it's clear that they valued Neal over Cross because they took him at 7.
All right. What do you think about the Gardner pick? He was the first one off the board in terms of our Jets Giants teams here in the Capital Region. What do you think of the Jets saying we'll wait on a receiver? We're going to stick with Mekhi Becton as our left tackle. Let's go try to get a lockdown corner.
Yeah, I think it was smart because it was probably the greatest position of need. And if you really like a guy, then go get him. And from everything people were saying, Sauce Gardner could be the best player in the draft. His numbers, they were taught. I said, we need these stats, people. His numbers were eye-popping. He didn't give up a touchdown in 1,000 snaps in his college career. Not a single one. Gave up like 60 yards on maybe like 10 catches or something. Absurd. So what they did, they got the guy, and I think that was a good choice for them.
Never gave up more than like 11 yards to a single receiver. Mark with the first early comment here. I'm waiting for the Bills fans to point out that they're the only team in New York. We know that. There are teams from New Jersey, actually. They play in New Jersey. Yes, they like to call themselves New York. Yeah, I love the distinction here of New York, New Jersey football teams. We get it. We know where they play and where they are, and I was having some fun with it at the top of the show. We are not split locations here. We're just, a little split screen so you can see our Twitter handles there. Feel free to give us a follow or tweet at us. We'll go back to the top 10 here. So I'm with you. I loved the pick of Gardner. I had him going 4th in my mock draft for whatever that's worth.
Yours was pretty good.
Not bad.
Mine wasn't great.
Not bad.
But
and-
listen, you had to run the first 5 players off the board were
Yeah.
defensive players, which this is the first time in a very long
Since
time that we've
91.
seen that. No quarterbacks in your top 10. A
Mhm.
long time since we've seen that.
Mhm.
But the Giants get Thibodeau at 5, and like you said, right move because they could get their tackle elsewhere. But Thibodeau was a guy that they talked about being a top 3 kind of guy.
Yep.
So he helps their defense, certainly.
Yeah, big time. They don't have a pass rusher, and all the talk is that James Bradbury, even at corner, may not be around very long because of cap issues. So you've either got to get pressure on the quarterback or you've got to be able to lock down number 1 receivers. If you can't do that in the secondary, boom, go after a guy like this who was the number 1 high school recruit a few years ago who ended up choosing Oregon. He has all of the talent in the world. The questions have been how motivated he might be. How much does he really want to play football? Look, I don't buy into a ton of that.
Yeah.
Give me the talent and I will find the passion. He clearly has enough of that in him. So I'm cool with what the Giants did there in Thibodeau.
Listen, until now, he hasn't made real money to play football.
Yep.
Money talks. When you're going to make millions of dollars to play football, guess what? I'm going to come out and give you my best because I want you to sign my checks at the end of the week.
Yeah. Garrett Wilson, 10th overall to the Jets. We knew they needed a wide receiver, obviously, to help out their guy, Zach Wilson.
That was kind of who we thought. We both had. That was the one we nailed. Yep, at 10. And I think he's a good fit for them. They talked about he isn't like their other receivers. He's a big guy who's going to go up and get it. And they don't have that at receiver right now. So that was a good pick for them.
Yeah, I know they liked Drake London.
Yeah, and he's a bigger guy.
Show
He's
you
going to
another
go up
one
and get
here.
it.
Yeah, exactly. So London goes 8th to the Falcons. So really, Ash, the Jets'
was off the
decision was
board.
made
Yep.
for them in
Yeah.
a lot of ways. That okay, it's London and it's Wilson.
Yep.
Whoever's left is who we will end up taking. It ends up being Garrett Wilson, who had a terrific year and career at Ohio State. One pick later ended up being his teammate.
Yes.
Going to the Saints, who were aggressive in a move to go get a receiver. They
And
can
that
throw on the
started
other side of Michael Thomas.
A run of receivers. We saw them all go flying off the board there.
Whose draft do you like better, the Giants or the Jets?
I think I like the Giants just because I always feel like you win. They always say you win in the trenches, right? So you win and lose on the lines. And I think they addressed both. They got somebody who's going to be hopefully a cornerstone for them on the offensive line, and same thing on the defensive line. And those were huge issues for them. Receivers, to me, I feel like they're not a dime a dozen. That's not what I'm saying, but they were much deeper in this draft. You could have gotten a receiver. You can get a receiver in the 2nd or 3rd rounds, I think, that can fill holes.
Yep.
So I love what both of them did. I really like what the Giants did. It felt smart, which isn't something that the Giants have done. So Joe Shane, when he gets his grade for draft this year and Brian Dable, I think it's going to be pretty good.
I think I like the Jets draft better.
Okay.
They went and got the Derek Stingley, I know, went a pick ahead of.
Yep.
I like Sauce Gardner better. He's longer.
Yeah.
He played at a higher level more recently than Derek Stingley at LSU. Jets really need that. I think he may be the best defender in this draft. He's the best corner in my mind. So I like the Sauce Gardner pick for the Jets. I also then think, okay, now you've gotten Zach Wilson, an elite weapon on the outside in Garrett Wilson. I like what the Jets were able to do here, sitting at 4 and 10, and in my mind, still getting maybe the guys that they would have ranked 1 and 2.
I was going to say, even if Stingley was available, I still think Sauce would have been their guy if the Texans hadn't gone with Sauce at 3. So I think that they got who they wanted anyway, but I also like it as the better pick. I like the Sauce Gardner pick. Again, to me, the wide receiver position just isn't quite as sexy because it was so deep.
Yep. Here's a look at Sauce. He's almost 6'3".
Big guy. Saleh loves him some big, long defenders.
Corners.
Yep.
Yep. Okay. All right. Well, there it is. I mean, you can see the length on him at almost 6'3" and 190. I watched him play against Notre Dame as Cincinnati went to South Bend and won. He was an absolute lockdown guy all year long on a Cincinnati team that actually got to the college football playoff.
Yeah.
that was a defense that was really good. And of course, he had a lot to do with that.
It's like he's floating.
Right. Look at the ups
Yeah.
of him.
He's floating.
The other guy that the Jets took, here's a look at Garrett Wilson. Ohio State's passing attack this past year, of course, was terrific. And maybe even the best receiver of the bunch isn't eligible in this year's draft. He will be next year. So the Buckeyes are turning out a bunch of wide receivers in the last few drafts, and it's Wilson going 10 to the Jets overall. All right, we're going to hear from our guy Pat Leonard, who with the New York Daily News, the news around the Giants isn't necessarily so much the draft today that a lot of people are reacting to, talking about. It's the fact that the Giants have decided not to pick up the fifth-year option on their quarterback, Daniel Jones. Pat Leonard will give us a little bit of an insight as to how big of a deal that is. Maybe it isn't all that big of a deal. Yeah, exactly. We've seen, the Panthers picked up the fifth year on Darnold. The Browns picked up the fifth year on Baker Mayfield. It just kind of felt like a foregone conclusion that Jones has been good enough. Who's the other option? They don't have one. Okay, you pick up the fifth. Well, that's not going to happen. So I can't wait to get Pat's perspective. Have done what seemed like the logical thing here to pick up the fifth-year option. Greg says New York needs to get a better offensive line. He's talking about the Giants there. They're working on it. The pick of Evan Neal. They're working on it.
They made a move and they've signed guys. We talked about this in the show earlier, but John Feliciano from Buffalo, they've made moves. And now they've added a young stud from Alabama who should be really good for them. So, they're working on it. And listen, we talked about this too. The Giants, it feels like year after year after year, they are drafting these big name offensive linemen, and some of them just haven't worked out. You've got Andrew Thomas on one side, who has taken a little bit to develop, but you got a guy like Will Hernandez, who was picked pretty highly, and he's walking out the door. So sometimes they work out and sometimes they don't, and that ends up being the problem. You're using picks on some of these guys who don't necessarily work out the way you thought. You're tracking the picks, and I'm seeing wide receivers and interior O-linemen go off the board, and Green Bay has not made the effort to move up. No. Yeah, there are not gonna be a lot of wide receivers left for you at this point. Treylon Burks just off the board. I mean, they're gonna have taken the kid from North Dakota State, who Mel Kiper actually had as slated to go 22 to the Green Bay Packers. All right, when we come back here on Onorato and Company, quick timeout, just 30 seconds away from breaking down the top 10 overall and getting some of your thoughts, and then we'll look at the first round overall, plus that sound from Pat Leonard from the New York Daily News about the decision the Giants made today to not pick up Daniel Jones' fifth-year option. We're back right after this on Onorato and Company. Hang with us.
Happiness is found in simple things. The sun on your face, sharing laughs at the campground, getting wet, relaxing together, the love of family. There's never been a better time to go outside and play. Alpenhaus Pool Spa Boat and RV, bringing families together and creating memories since 1964.
And now back to Onorato and Company, brought to you by Alpenhaus.
All right, we're back on Onorato and Company, reacting to the first round in the NFL draft. Really, we kind of thought timing-wise, late at night, I've got to get some sleep. We'll probably only sneak in the top 10, but the picks have gone quickly enough here to the point that we're basically into the 20s. And so we're with you here for at least another 20 minutes if you're watching us live on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. If you're catching us Saturday nights on My 4, where we are each and every single Saturday night, you'll get a little more from us as I'm at Alpenhaus in Amsterdam, and we'll do a little bit of Major League Baseball and NBA playoffs as well. But the topic here for us certainly is the NFL draft. Let's give you another look here at the top 10 overall. And it's Trayvon Walker, who shot up draft boards, Ash, in the last, I would just say like week and a half. I mean, it just all of a sudden was like, oh, wait, no, it isn't going to be Aiden Hutchinson going to the Jacksonville Jaguars. It's going to be Trayvon Walker, the DN from Georgia. Okay. All right. And then the Lions, I think, were ecstatic. When they heard the news and the reports, they're probably like, great, we'll take the kid from Ann
Yeah.
Arbor. Dad
Right.
played at Michigan. Hutchinson's a local guy because of that. And so he goes to the Lions at number 2. He was fired up on stage. It looked like he was happy to be a Detroit Lion. And then the surprise of the first
surprise,
round,
yep.
it was Derek Stingley to Houston. I thought for sure they will go offensive line, build the O-line. You've already got Laramie Tunsil. Go get somebody else to anchor the other side of the offensive line. And I think in my mock, I had them taking Ikem Ekwonu. But they say we'll take a DB in Derek Stingley. Lovie Smith is a defensive guy. There you go. Stingley, number 3 to Houston.
He's an interesting pick, I think, just because of the way that his career has played out. He was a stud in 2019 in LSU's national championship run, then didn't play, and then didn't have a great year.
Yep.
So he hasn't been the Derek Stingley that I think NFL teams, would have easily jumped at the chance to get since 2019. So he's just an interesting guy. I'm interested to see how it plays out because you never know what you're going to get at this point. You hope he turns into the 2019 Derek Stingley, but you really don't know.
We've already broken down what the Jets and Giants did. You saw on your screen there, Carolina, the sandwich pick between 5 and 7 for the Giants. They go O-line.
And I think they were probably thrilled
to have their choice.
Yeah, I think they were probably thrilled at that point because there was a little bit of talk about them potentially taking a quarterback there, but it was going to be a stretch, and they've got Sam Darnold. They can get somebody else down the line to try to fill that hole. But yeah, I think, and he's another guy, NC State going right down the road to Charlotte, so not going too far.
We are not in separate locations, see? But the split screen did just kind of work out perfectly. That's where we are on Twitter, though. Give us a follow and share your thoughts on what has happened here in the NFL draft here so far. All right, back to the top 10. So after the Giants then take Neal, the Falcons are now giving, I know you say Teddy Bridgewater, but he's not the long-term solution in Atlanta, correct?
No, Marcus Mariota.
Marcus Mariota, I'm sorry. Yeah.
No, but he's got a 2-year contract.
Yep.
He's good enough, I think, to win you football games. And that's not a team that's going to win a lot of football games anyway.
No, and they'll be searching for the next quarterback. But whoever that next quarterback is, he will have Kyle Pitts and now Drake London to throw the football to. Pretty darn good. Yeah. And a lot of people like Zacchaeus as well. So Atlanta has some weapons in the receiving game now after they take London, number 8, and then 9.
Smart.
It was.
I think it was
right?
smart.
Conservative.
Yes, but
smart to
Again,
go with
not
a tackle
team,
in Seattle.
Not a team that's going to win a whole ton of games with Drew Lock at quarterback, which is where we think they're going at this point. They have yet to sign, or go get Baker Mayfield. So yeah, I think we talked about this. The offensive tackles were 3 deep and then everybody else. So I think they said, you know what? Our line has been terrible. Our offensive line has been terrible. So they did their best to take the best guy for that position, and they're going to try to protect Drew Lock or whoever else ends up being their quarterback in Seattle.
Yeah, and the word is that they like Drew Lock in Seattle. So, okay. Joel's watching us on YouTube. I love that. Sauce to the Jets. Okay, that has some excitement to a quality player, no doubt.
Love it.
Yeah, I really like the pick as well, as we've detailed already on this show. All right, so the news, Ash, is that the Giants have said, we like you, Daniel Jones. We just don't love you.
Yeah. Yep.
We're not ready to marry you. Let's keep dating a little bit. And then maybe we decide, you know what? Yes, you are, in fact, the one for us.
Or it's time to break up.
Yeah, well, we'll see.
Could be that too.
He's going into year 4. I said to Pat Leonard from the New York Daily News, what's all this talk about the Giants not picking up a 5th-year option? Of course they're going to do it, because what is their option if they don't? Well, here's Pat's thought on that.
Daniel plays really well in year 4. You have the franchise tag if you're the Giants to keep him under control. And also, if he plays that well, then you're working out an extension anyway. The thing about a 5th-year option, if you lock it in now, then if you want to abandon ship after this season, you're locked in to another year of guaranteed money. Now, the franchise tag is millions more expensive than the 5th-year option, so you would be taking on a little bit more money. But like I said, you'd probably just be folding that into a long-term contract. You look at the Panthers and the Browns picking up options on Darnold and Baker Mayfield. You just don't want to be in that spot, right? So not that I think Daniel's not going to work out, but you do have to, in a business sense, play it on both sides.
Okay, so Pat Leonard, I mean, he absolutely nailed it. He said, I don't think they're going to do it, and I don't think it would be smart of them to do it. Let him play the fourth year. If he's so great, worst case scenario, you franchise tag him and overpay to keep him.
Yep.
But if he plays well, you're going to figure out a way to
done.
work out a contract extension. And he pointed out Mayfield and he pointed out Darnold. You don't want to be in that position where you've got a $20 million fifth-year option for Daniel Jones and he isn't any good in year 4. And now he's the backup and we're drafting a guy. We're trying to trade that fifth. So the Giants did what sounds like is the responsible thing here. Now, here's the way I view it is if I'm Daniel Jones and I'm his camp, is this a no confidence vote from Giants ownership or if you're the Giants and I'm Joe Shane and Brian Dable, can I spin it as, hey man, look, we just haven't had an opportunity to work with you yet. So we're going to work with you for the year. We really think you're going to be a good quarterback in this league. We're going to be a big part of that. Give us a year to work with you. I'm sure by November, we're all going to feel like we need to keep this relationship going and we can then work out something in the offseason.
I think it's
you're not happy if you're Daniel Jones.
No, you're not happy for Daniel Jones. But at the end of the day, it's a go out there and prove to us that you are the quarterback we need to spend money on and you're going to be the franchise guy.
Okay.
Like whether or not it lights a fire, it should light a fire. But if you are Daniel Jones, you have to know you haven't done enough to get that vote of confidence. New management, new coach or not, you haven't done enough to be the Giants quarterback going forward. So here's your shot. This is it. I think that's kind of what it is. We're laying down the line. Go prove that you're the guy who deserves the contract.
So they add another offensive lineman for him. They added a bunch of offensive weapons last year to try to help Daniel Jones, and it just never really worked out in the passing game with the guys like Kenny Golladay and
injuries.
Shepard couldn't stay on the field, but they're all still there.
Yep.
And this will be interesting with Brian Dable now designing the offense, and can he make Daniel Jones look something like Josh Allen or make the Giants offense look something like the Bills offense over the last couple of years. We'll see. That's an interesting experiment.
Well, Daniel Jones is not Josh Allen.
No,
so it will not look like the Bills offense, and the Giants wide receivers are nothing like the Bills wide receivers. Even Gabriel Davis has been a better wide receiver than what the Giants have. So injuries have a lot to do with it, but I still think the Bills wide receivers are better. First
quarterback's finally off the board as we talk QBs here. And it was the kind of perfect marriage.
A lot of guys staying at home.
You have the Pitt quarterback going to Pittsburgh. And I don't know. I think camp in Pittsburgh is going to be interesting. Mitchell Trubisky's not going to be given that job. He certainly is the favorite because of experience. But if Kenny Pickett, who by the way is the pick, Kenny Pickett goes to the Steelers, if he looks really, really good in training camp and preseason games, and I'm Mike Tomlin, I'm playing the kid.
Yeah. And I think that is the perfect situation because of a fan base like Pittsburgh who throws their fandom and their love behind even Pitt players. Like you've got Pittsburgh Steeler fans who, even if they don't watch the Pittsburgh Panthers on a week-to-week basis, are going to root for the hometown kid, we call it. So I think you've got fans who want to see him do well now. My guess is all those Pittsburgh Steelers fans are going to want to see Kenny Pickett starting on day one, week one, versus a guy like Mitch Trubisky.
Yeah.
He's been a backup.
Yeah. No, I don't think you're
and
wrong.
Not a good starting quarterback when he was a starter.
So 6 receivers were taken before the first quarterback went. And it wasn't Malik Willis, who all the experts are saying he's the best quarterback prospect in this draft. Maybe the Steelers.
It's so dependent on system and what you feel you need, which is always why I think, they talked about Malik Willis. If the Panthers took a quarterback, that would be their guy, Malik Willis. Well, if Kenny Pickett fits your system better, then that's the guy you go with.
Couple more picks still before my Packers as we do this reaction in real time, and there aren't many receivers left.
No,
plenty of mock drafts had 7 of them going in the first round.
Yep.
6 of them already gone and
Yeah.
off the board. So at
Yeah.
22, where I really thought the Packers would take an O-lineman, Zion Johnson's off the board, which would have been my pick. They now have to go receiver, and the only guy left is Christian Watson from North Dakota. He's the only guy left.
Yeah, listen, so Garrett Wilson at 10, right after him, Chris Olave to the Saints, who traded up to get him.
Yep.
Right after that, the Lions trade up to get Jamison Williams. So there were, go ahead,
2 teams
traded up.
that wanted receivers, needed receivers, thought, let's help our quarterback. They were aggressive. They traded up. They weren't just sitting there waiting, hoping somebody falls into their lap. They made moves.
Are you surprised? This is
No,
a
I'm not.
team
I'm just
that
frustrated.
drafted Jordan Love.
Yeah, but that's not. But that's not my point.
But they've refused to go get
They went and got him.
weapons. That he's not a weapon.
They
He's a guy
traded up
who's
to get him.
he's a guy who's riding the bench. They've gone up to get the wrong player. They have not gone up to get the weapons that Aaron Rodgers needs to win them a Super Bowl. Jordan Love in winning many Super Bowls.
No, and I hate the narrative that like, well, Green Bay they got Jordy Nelson in the second round, and they got Devontae Adams in the second round, and they got Randall Cobb in the third round. All that's good, but those are drafts where quarterbacks were valued.
Yep.
That's not this draft.
No.
You're not
It
getting
is
a
not.
Jordy Nelson, Devontae Adams, Randall Cobb in the second or third. You need a receiver in the first round. Trent McDuffie to Kansas City.
He fell a little bit.
Here it is. This is the opportunity. Watson from North Dakota State's the last guy who has a first round grade according to everybody. If he isn't the pick at 22, I don't know what to say. I will walk off the show.
Well, what else? What else do you need? What are the
O-line.
Okay. So what if they take an O-lineman? Not happy.
I don't think there's one left here. Zion Johnson would have
Yeah,
been
he
my
was
guy.
gone,
I don't think there's
Yeah.
one left here that
Kenyon
I would.
Green is gone.
I mean, if you're
Zion
Aaron
Johnson.
Rodgers and if you're Aaron Rodgers, are you sitting at home drinking a scotch, watching the draft, or are you like so involved in other things that someone will text you what happens? Are you watching
He's
live?
probably on the phone with his people like, hey, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Give me a receiver. Not great. Yeah.
No, I'm so frustrated at the aggression of other teams
Yep,
trying
a lot
to
of
win
trades.
and upgrade the position
Yep.
while the Packers
A lot of
do
trades
that.
for receivers. And we had the Patriots just made the Patriots traded out. That was what the Chiefs picked McDuffie. Patriots traded out. That's a
always do
champion
that.
Bill Belichick
Boy.
move. Trade out, get picks.
Do they always
Champion
do
Bill
that?
Belichick
They
move.
always move.
And they've got some
back.
needs too. Patriots need corners.
yeah.
They need receivers. They need everything. So
Yeah, no doubt about it. All right, let's take a quick break here. We'll continue to react while we're on the air as the picks come in. But the NBA season is over for a fourth-year guy
it is.
in Kevin Huerter. We'll talk about what we saw from the Atlanta Hawks as they were only able to get one game off the Miami Heat in the first round of the NBA playoffs. That's next here on Onorato and Company. Hang on, everybody.
Happiness is found in simple things. The sun on your face, sharing laughs, at the campground, getting wet, relaxing together, the love of family. There's never been a better time to go outside and play. Alpenhaus Pool Spa Boat and RV. Bringing families together and creating memories since 1964.
Teams, athletes, organizations. We're transforming the custom apparel industry through product and purpose. Claim your crown.
And now back to Onorato and Company. Brought to you by Alpenhaus.
Okay, some news to just right off the bat here, as we said,
Well,
we were going to talk
breaking
some
news.
NFL, some NBA playoffs. Yeah, AJ Brown, stud receiver from the Titans, wanted a new contract. Tennessee was not going to give it to him, in line with what a lot of the other guys were being paid in terms of Tyreek Hill and Devontae Adams and Christian Kirk. And so the Titans said, "Okay, see ya."
We'll trade you.
Traded him to the Philadelphia Eagles, who all of a sudden,
I was going to say.
Devontae Smith, Jalen Reagor still there,
Yep,
right?
Yep.
Um,
He's underwhelmed a little, but.
Goddard, and now AJ Brown.
And they just drafted Jordan Davis, who was the talk of the combine. D tackle out of Georgia.
Run
They're
stopper.
doing all right. They're doing all right.
So they're going to give Jalen Hurts a real shot here, and they gave AJ Brown, the receiver from Tennessee, a 4-year, $100 million contract. If I'm Ryan Tannehill, yeah, I'm happy to have Treylon Burks.
Right, that's who they draft. Oh, here we go. The breaking news: the Packers pick is in. Chris is probably going to walk off the show.
Inside linebacker, position of need, yes. Quay Walker, really good player of that Georgia defense that won a national championship. Not the right pick at 22. Just not the right pick. I mean, how many times are they going to go defense in the first round? When it's the offense lately,
Yes.
10 points
Yeah.
in a home game against the 49ers. That is unbelievable. All right. So I was getting around to this point that the Titans are kind of interesting. If I'm Ryan Tannehill, I'm happy to have a Treylon Burks. But in the last 2 off seasons, I've seen Corey Davis leave in free agency. I've seen Jonnu Smith leave in free agency. And now my team trades my number 1 receiver, AJ. Derrick Henry can't carry the ball 50 times a game. We have to throw it at some point, guys. I don't really understand the strategy. Tennessee is good enough, Ash, in the AFC to really contend.
Yeah, and listen, they can win. Generally, they could win that conference or that division with their eyes closed, basically, is kind of how we felt when they were constructed as they were. Now you take an AJ Brown off that team, and I don't know that people are so convinced that Treylon Burks is going to just kind of fit right in and be the guy that AJ Brown was. You can't expect a rookie to take the place of one of the top receivers in the league. I get it when you don't want to pay somebody, but you get what you pay for sometimes. And then when you don't want to pay for something, sometimes that doesn't work out in your favor.
And I don't think 4 for 100 is unreasonable.
No.
25 a year.
Yeah.
Even I can do that math. It's not the 30 plus
right
that the top
well, he probably
receivers
doesn't deserve
were getting.
that, but
yeah, he's not Devontae Adams. He's not Tyreek Hill.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I'll have to check in with my cousin Pat. Big Titans fan.
Yeah.
Big Titans fan.
All right. The year is over for Kevin Huerter and the Atlanta Hawks, and the Miami Heat turned up the heat defensively against this Hawks team. They're the 4th ranked defense in the NBA. You saw what the Celtics did against Brooklyn as the number 1 ranked defense in the NBA. Miami's almost just as good. In the 5 games, Miami did, Trae Young to 11 points or fewer in 3 of them.
Yep.
I don't care who else is on the court. If your best player, your number 1 scorer, he's the number 1 option, we can debate whether he's the best player, is going to score 11 or fewer points in 3 of 5, you have no chance in that series.
But that's
no chance.
Yeah, I mean, it's similar, but not the same as the KD situation. When Kevin Durant gets shut down, the Nets are not going to win. When Trae Young gets shut down, the Hawks are not going to win. I am of the camp that when Trae Young is your number 1, you cannot win a championship. That's how I feel about the Atlanta Hawks. I don't think I'll ever change my mind about that. Because of situations like this. When he's hot, he's hot. He can go get you 40. When he's cold, he's cold. And to me, when he's cold, he doesn't facilitate enough. He's not quick enough to say, like, know what? Not my night. Let me pass the ball a little bit. I'll take a shot next quarter and just see if it goes in. It's just he keeps chucking. And for me, that's not beneficial to the Hawks.
And it could be, I'm going to defend him for a moment here. We won't know unless he's paired with somebody else of a real star scorer caliber. if he's passing the ball, I like Bogdanovich. He's a
Mhm.
I like Gallinari, nice player. Collins, nice player. But there isn't a second scoring option that to me screams consistently 20 plus.
Yeah.
This is not on the roster.
Yeah.
They spent a lot of money on guys who are good players, but not, I don't think, good enough for somebody of Trey's mentality who's going to he could take 25 shots a game for him to then, I think, willingly give the ball up and feel good about whatever shot is going to go up next. I'm defending him a little bit here. I do tend to side with you that he can't be a number one on a championship team. Look at the rest of the teams in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah.
Atlanta, the way they're currently constructed, not coming out of that conference. And I know they were close last year.
I was going to say,
but it's not going to happen.
Yeah, I don't think everyone was surprised by that run last year, and things just kind of went well. They were hurt a lot this year, COVID issues, the whole thing. But a lot of teams dealt with that. But yeah, you've got too much star power on too many of those other teams for them to really compete with, I think, consistently. So surprise run, I'm not all that surprised at kind of the way things went. Listen, they went back to the playoffs. You can't shake your head at that. But they went back to the playoffs.
All right. Final thoughts here on the draft is my buddy Greg Stack texted me, "You should have walked off the set, man." Yeah, you're not kidding. Here's final look at the top 10 in what happened on Thursday night of the NFL draft. Stingley really maybe the only surprise. We both think the Jets and Giants did very well. I'm not into like giving draft grades in terms of letters, but I would give them both A's.
Yeah, both got an A. But you couldn't.
Maybe I'd have to give the Jets an A and the Giants an A minus because I feel like you
couldn't mess it up.
Gangrene was a little bit better.
Like we said, they both did what they should have done, and that's maybe the first time in a while it feels like to have two picks in the top 10. Not going to happen again for a long time, probably.
No,
2 picks in the top 10.
Yep.
That is franchise-changing stuff.
It should be.
It is.
Well, yes, it is, because either for the good or the bad.
Yeah. You either messed it up or you got it right.
Either for the good or the bad, the Giants and Jets with 2 top 10 picks in the first round of this year's NFL draft.